Ed Huling and Ruth Oddie are here. Ed has decades of experience as an organic farmer. He is an innovator and a thought leader in developing methods to rebuild depleted cells and grow food with high nutrient density. He developed SPC's breakthrough fertility amendment over 20 years of rigorous testing, including a year-long partnership with a senior research scientist at USDA. These methods are now being used to address the climate crisis, including restoring forests to cool the planet and improving farm crop to yield and grow more food per acre. Ruth Oddie was part of the team that launched MTV, was the first president of the Discovery Channel, and an EVP of Scholastic, a highly respected and innovative educational publishing company. She is Ed's wife and helps ensure effective communications, as all our wives do, project management, and partnerships that deliver on our promises to customers to help cool our planet. Your floor.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here. I want to thank Peter Dawson for introducing us to the Chamber, and we have so many things to share with you today. I'm going to hop right to, but there's a couple of things I need to say. First of all, as Hal said, 23 years we've been at this with this never-stopping passion to ensure that our soils have the nutrients that then end up in the plants and the things we eat. Because if it's not there, the chromium or the selenium or whatever, it's not in the soil, it's not in the plant, and it's not in us. And we need all these minerals to survive and thrive. So basically what we want to do today is tell you what we see happening in the world, particularly around the intersection of climate change and farming. And I want to say that we can only see through the lens of farmers. We're not climate experts, we're not scientists, we are simply devoted people trying to make food better and make farmers more productive and help to replant forests. And so we decided that given that you're all adults, you run businesses, you run organizations, that we can share with you our interpretation of what's really going on. And some of that is not too easy to listen to, so we apologize in advance. We have some rough news in the beginning of this, but there are solutions that we have. There are many people working on these things. So we're going to share kind of our view of what's going on and then what we are going to do to try to make an impact, what our company is, where we're headed. So, we there? Did I forget anything? Sure. Okay. Oh, first of all, you obviously need to understand the problem before you can invent solutions. So we're going to start with that. You all know that, having run organizations and made things happen. So,
okay.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and we hope you enjoy your lunch and learn something here. So, humans have been caught up in a vicious cycle for the past 10,000 years, ever since agriculture began. That cycle destroyed many civilizations over that time, and it will destroy us if we don't find a way out of this cycle. We believe that we have developed part of the solution to do so, and that, as Ruth said, there's many other brilliant people working on this, but there's not much time, and there's not enough resources at this point being invested to solve these issues. So let me explain. Humans have been cutting and burning trees since agriculture began in order to open the soil to the sun. Our ancestors planted their crops in rich soil created by trees. As the population grew, they cut down more trees, and that is the trap. Because trees generate rain and they cool the earth locally and globally. So what happened every time is that over a period of at least hundreds of years, soil became more and more depleted. What this meant is that the amount of food that could be grown on a given plot of land kept decreasing as the population of that civilization kept growing. The solution was always to cut down more and more trees, faster and faster for more fresh land to farm. When they cut down trees on hillsides, rain literally washed the topsoil into the valleys and out to sea. The collapse of each civilization came when the size of the population and the deforested area grew large enough to disrupt the rain and to heat up the region to the point where a catastrophic drought and summer heat combined with the lower soil output caused crop failures at a level that caused starvation or migration of the population. When this occurred in tropical or semi-tropical areas, this destruction of soil and loss of rain became permanent as deserts as we know them now.
So let's take a look at where we are in this historical reconstruction that Ed just shared with you. So there's recently, maybe a year ago or so, the IPCC reported the following. Do you know who that is? The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's like 270 scientists from around the world, distinguished, very smart people who are monitoring many different aspects of climate change.
Yeah,
so go ahead and share the number.
So it's a disturbing number. They've reported now that 46% of all the surface of the land area on Earth is now desert or arid wasteland, which basically means we can't grow food without assistance from irrigation or other assistance. So that really begs the question, you know, how long can we keep on with this cycle before it's unsustainable?
I think I should say that a lot of people cutting down trees weren't doing any harm as far as they could see. They were feeding their families, or they had made promises to a local store as a farmer and to deliver it. And you know, even for me, I don't know how about you all, but this news that forests generate rain and cool the earth by literally exporting heat to the outer space is not something I knew. Like, I love trees, but now that I get that, every tree being cut is not getting rid of the heat and is not generating rain. That's a really big issue. So basically, there are many, many, many warnings about this. If you guys go on and look around, you'll feel worse than we've made you feel right now. You came for a nice lunch and to see your friends and people you care about, and here we are, like, with this heavy thing. But there's a lot going on to fix the situation, let me repeat. So basically, many, many scientists are warning now that what could happen when there is this catastrophic lack of water, lack of food, is disruptions in the order of society. People desperate, people leaving, stealing, doing whatever they have to do to feed their family. And many other experts are predicting, very sorry to tell you this, but that the Amazon rainforest now, which brings rain to the US in the West Coast, and it affects us, is so reduced and so shrunken in chunks all around that it could become a dry savanna. Like, literally, this rain generator could become desert-like. The other thing is that as we cut down trees, then the earth can't deal, then we could, suffer more rain shortages, basically. So you can read about this and you can see some of the impact of what's happened. But this is not just about the rainforest. The things we're talking to about that trees do, like here in this area, we don't realize the problem because we have such magnificent forests. Every trip you take, you're seeing beautiful countryside, and those trees are doing this. They are getting rid of the heat for us, and they are generating rain for us. It'll tell you scientifically why. And we've now talked about this, Ed, so I'm going to pass that. So let us just give you the primer, because this is important to the next chapter.
Yeah, so the simple story on trees is basically the sun shines on the tree, it hits the leaves are a little bit dark green, the leaves heat up, and just like water in a pan on your stove evaporates, the water inside the tree leaves evaporates. The tree pulls up water from the ground, it evaporates it, and when that evaporation happens, something very important happens, is that it basically withdraws heat or removes heat around the tree, around the leaves, at the ground level. And since water vapor is significantly lighter than air, the water vapor is buoyed up into the upper atmosphere, where once it reaches the atmosphere, it's cold, it condenses, forms clouds, and the heat that was removed from the surface of the Earth gets released up in the atmosphere, and then most of that heat radiates back out to space. So basically, trees are amazing machines for taking heat at the Earth's surface and facilitating that heat being removed and radiated back out to space.
So when you take a walk with your grandchild in a forest, you know it's cooler. Now you know why. The trees all around us all the time are exporting excess heat.
And other evidence is, like the average temperature in the Amazon rainforest is only 83 degrees, even though it's near the equator. Whereas if you go into desert areas without trees, you can have temperatures as high as 150 degrees, 60, 170 degrees at the ground level in deserts. So that's the difference. When we're talking about heating up the planet, literally trees are removing that heat, whereas once the trees are gone, the surface of the Earth heats up. That radiation then is what it basically intersects the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, heats up the atmosphere, ultimately heats up the oceans, and that's how
it can't escape the way that the vapor from the trees is. From the barren land, it just gets trapped in the atmosphere.
So anyway, so trees are crucial for cooling the Earth, and then the other equally important thing is that this evaporation that happens as it goes up into the atmosphere, when it condenses, forms clouds. Most of the rain that happens over land areas is coming through evaporation from plants. So it's basically recycled water from plants. So that once the plants or trees are no longer there, then you don't have that evaporation and the rain stops, which is, we can see more and more all over the world.
Or droughts and prolonged.
A couple other important details is that trees evolved symbioses that facilitated the rain, including that there are bacteria that are emitted from the stomata of trees that float up into the atmosphere, and they're called precipitation nuclei. In other words, for a water molecule in the atmosphere to actually aggregate into a raindrop, you need something to aggregate around. And the bacteria that are emitted by tree leaves are those nuclei. So if you don't have these nuclei, then rain rain doesn't form unless the temperature is much lower. So anyway, basically trees and this partnership with microbes are creating a situation where there's more rain, which of course trees need, and it helps them survive. But we need the rain as well.
Okay, so to sum it up for you then, this Russian woman who's a leader in all of this says, forests are complex, self-sustaining rain-making systems. I mean, isn't that a beautiful summary of, we should have said that maybe first and we wouldn't have had to explain all this to you, but now you know there's all this, biology and thermodynamics and everything else underneath it. But the bottom line is we cut forests, we're interfering with the cooling of the earth directly, and we're helping stop rainfall. We're shortening the likelihood that we can have rain. So it is very serious when you look at the deforestation rates that are actually happening around the world. So just to close this topic now and go on, this one quote from the Rainforest Foundation in Oslo is just so beautiful to explain it. Humans continue to chop down rainforests into smaller pieces, thus reducing their ability to store carbon, cool the planet, produce rain, and provide habitats. So you can see this pink area that was all, destroyed. It's a beautiful summary of what we just tried to explain to you. And then there's all kind of scientists so worried about certain rainforests around the world getting closer to when the loss of tree cover will finally push it past the point of no return, losing our greatest shield against rising temperatures. So that's the bad news. Okay.
Ruth, let me mention one thing is you might say, well, how does one project like that, or even multiple projects, when there's still trees around, it's disproportionately important because Since water over land gets transported mostly from the ocean, then when you have significant areas that are breaking the continuity from that water vapor from the ocean onto land, at a certain point, you don't get water farther inland. And that's why, you know, these big projects in the Amazon are beginning to be so significant that they're interrupting this flow of moisture deeper and deeper into the continents.
Okay, so given this set of issues, we have to stay on our time track. So, and what we know in terms of being farmers for this many years, what are we doing? So we have two areas where we think that we can contribute. First is in restoring soil, restoring the richness and the aliveness of soil, which we've been working on for a very long time, to grow more food per acre. If we could grow more food per acre, then there wouldn't be nearly as much pressure to cut trees for fertile land. And then secondly, in forests, our goal is to plant literally millions of trees. And to do so, giving it this nutrient base to start, giving it a strong, you know, beginning of minerals and microbes and things that all plants need right at the beginning of the little baby trees' lives, so that we can obviously help the cooling and the rainfall that we've just been talking about. So the soil fertility story is a key part of this. Ed's been at this for 20 years, and over the last 4 years, working with you, Peter, as the DNR on the land in Hopewell and in Hillsborough and in Southampton, we've been doing really large tests of this soil fertility and its impact. So tell them just a little bit about this.
Yeah, the first few years as an organic farmer, I really struggled because, you know, soils are so depleted that when you try to grow crops without pesticides, then you've got insect problems and disease problems, and it was a real struggle.
We thought you planted seeds and they grew. Oh. Soil science is so complicated, trying to diagnose why, and this aphid is here, and this, you know, just, it was really, really challenging. So then we had to get inside to figure out, tell them about the Andes and everything.
Yeah, so really I sort of took a step back and said, let me look at soils that, you know, virgin soils, whether they're virgin grasslands or forests, study the soil, see if I can understand what's going on, what those soils have that are producing, you know, magnificent trees and other crops that are missing for us here. And that's really the beginning of what helped me recreate soil, create the way to restore soils. You know, it turns out that there's literally thousands of species of beneficial microbes in healthy soil. There's dozens of essential elements that the trees need, that we need, that animals need, that have been basically extracted by crop production year after year that need to be replaced.
Chromium, selenium, zinc, you know, just...
Yeah, look at the table of elements. I mean, most of those elements, you know, humans and animals and plants evolved needing, and by extracting them with agriculture and not returning them, you end up with soil that can't support optimal plant growth or health of the whole ecosystem. And then the other thing is that with plowing, with cropping, with various forms of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, then the organic matter, the brown or black stuff here, gets oxidized. So you end up with soil that's compacted, water doesn't permeate into it, and crops don't grow very well. So basically we came up with a formula that restores all those essential elements so that you can get much higher crop productivity and grow a lot more.
So we'll show you some pictures of what we've been able to do with this soil. It's really, really more fun than what we've been talking about. Okay, so basically, at this point, I think you've said it all. You give them plants what they need in a form they can take it. The balance of everything is right. You know, there's so much went into it. Over literally 20 years, we were growing these microgreens. So every week, he could vary some aspect, some mineral, some aspect of it, and then do a soil test, and then see, did it get into the plant or not, right? And is the plant, what kind of condition is the plant in now? So it was endless. It's like all we talked about, like, oh, I toyed with the magnesium, and you know, but it was tough too, because we didn't know we'd end up with something. You know, we ended up with something that can absolutely we can look a farmer in the eye and say, this is going to improve your soil significantly, your yield, your crop, flavor, and your crop, how would you say it, the crop integrity. So 20 years of that, and then we went to test it on a big scale. We tested it a lot in small places all around Virginia where we used to live, down by DC. And now, over the last 3 years, as I said, we've had these large tests, 40, 50 acres, and we're going to show you a little bit about that. So the first thing we do, this is a really crucial part, is the soil product that he just described with all those beautiful traits gets spread all around the land of our farmer partner. And we just, it has to be a big dose. It's 10 tons per acre because it has to make a difference on extensive depleted soils. Okay, so here's what we got this past summer in Southampton, New Jersey. You can just see the beautiful field. I mean, this is about 6 weeks in, right? Tell them what they're looking at in terms of what kind of plants these are.
Yeah, it's just a mixed forage plants that cows love for grazing, Sudan grass and sunflowers, millet, cowpeas.
You want your cows to be eating the most nutrient-dense, food every inch of the way. Why? Because they're eating machines. You want to fatten them up so that you can sell them for a good price for meat. So you can see here that we were just thrilled with this, result. Particularly when all of June and July this past summer, a lot of New Jersey looked like this, central New Jersey. It was a horrendous drought. And this is the same farm where we were right next to, right what you just saw. So every single day it was just like crazy making. Like I would go home and think, oh my God, what if our plants are just all going to die and drop dead because we had this green, magnificent stuff, and this was around it. We brought the corn to show you. It was devastating for the farmers here. Many of them had to plow their entire crop under. Like this stuff was planted in April on the left, and you can see that it just was
once the hot dry period came, basically the corn stopped growing and ultimately died.
And this is a really large, successful farm, but they don't have irrigation. It's very, very expensive. Sometimes you don't have the throughput of enough water. So none of this got any. So just to remind you again, this is just another shot of our field. And, the cows were, so happy, and it was a real thrill to produce this. And to know that we could do it in the middle of a drought. And essentially, I think the roots were able to find water somehow.
Well, the mycorrhizal fungi in our inoculant basically extends out from the roots and collects water that the roots by themselves wouldn't be able to acquire. And we're happy about this because, as you know, there's more and more inconsistent rainfall, drier, there's dry periods that are causing crop losses all around the world. So for us to be able to restore soil and work our way through severe drought periods. Basically, we had 1/16 of an inch of rain for 8 weeks this summer. The entire life of this crop had 1/16 of an inch of rain. So that's what's possible. And think about what this could mean for food production around the world if we restored the biology and these minerals.